Hello everybody, this is Dan Clarke here, and I created for my final project here a Google Slide accessibility and quality checklist template. After looking at this course, I really started thinking about all of the things that we've worked on and how I would actually use this in my practice, what I can take away from this class, and how I could kind of effectively apply some of the things that we've learned to materials that I already have for the classroom, or when I start working on something new, to kind of have something to go down through and look at this. So in the with the video I'm sharing right now, I will also put a template for this. Feel free to take this, manipulate, change it. If you want to use it for your own practice, that's fine. But what I try to do is go through all of my notes and all the material that we had for the class, and to think about all of the things that I kind of took away from the class, and how I can make things more accessible, and also just check quality of things with a lot of the things that we looked at this through the course. So I put this in practice. I wanted to show you a Google Slide. So this is mainly all for Google Slide materials. So what I did is that this is how the template would sort of be used. I want to go through and kind of one by one here. See if I can zoom in a little bit closer so you can read these a little bit better. So here's what I did, is that here is a project that we have in my Drawing 2 class. It was called the intuitive response kind of approach. To run you through it real quickly, is that I show a lot of charcoal techniques in the beginning of it, and then we kind of use this exercise to apply some of them. The exercise is pretty experimental. So what we do is that we take, I give students little bits and pieces of somebody else's artwork, and they are to recreate a very small portion of that in the center of or around some other page. So here's an example. They would kind of recopy this very small area in the confines of a large page. They're not going to know what the rest of the image actually looks like. And so the way that you need to think of this is kind of like a stone that goes in the center of the pond. I provide them with the stone, and they create a drawing around the rest of it based on this kind of as a starting point. And so it's this idea of kind of using someone else's artwork, or a small fraction of it, to intuitively respond and develop the rest of it. So this is a kind of alternative or experimental way for creating images. Then I tell them that they're going to be assessed in kind of three different aspects of their final work: the design, which are kind of formal principles within stuff, some of the techniques that they applied from the video, and then also how conceptually far they take this. So in class, I show them lots of student examples, and we discuss these things there. I think this could very easily be adapted for an online format for small groups, as well as just having audio kind of put over top of it. So we talk about, here's two examples from previous students. They both had the same starting image, and both of them are very different. Which one's stronger compositionally, which one's stronger conceptually, et cetera, et cetera. So we kind of go down through a number of student examples and do that. Then, we talk about the rubric a little bit more in depth. And then this is the screen that they have access to up to a certain point. So I give them choice here between the four different groups, and they can choose one of these, and then they draw it in a very small section and develop this outward. When we come back after they work on it, I show them what these original artworks were connected to and the artists that made them. I probably should show more than one piece of artwork from those artists in looking at this, and that's one way I can develop this piece a little further. And then we have a critique at the end. These are sort of the guidelines for the critique. This is kind of a mid-progress critique, not when it's 100% done. And that's it. So looking at this list here, I went through and added the green things that it is done and the red things that haven't been done. Also in the parentheses here, I kind of note where those things came from throughout the course. So some things came from the national standards. Some of them came from Chapter 2 or Model 4, etc., or the Web Accessibility Guidelines. So let's look at a couple of these real fast. So Here is there an opportunity for students to take on a role from a specific viewpoint? Being able to have empathy and perspective, I think, is one thing that's really important. And I think maybe I could change the critique to then have people be more reflective as like a specific viewpoint. So I could tell them, you're viewing this piece of artwork as, and then it would be, from some other perspective other than their own. I think that would be a good thing to add. Here the diverse range of perspectives. I think looking at this, I tried to represent. Actually, I didn't try. These were the artworks that I just went out and got. But I think I saw that they were well represented from different countries, from male, female artists. Is that I have two females. I have one that's from a long time ago, one that's from the 20th century. I have an artist that's a contemporary artist, and then I even have Francisco de Goya, which is from 1746. He was born. So time, different countries, different genders. Do not really have different ethnicities represented, but I think I have a lot of that in drawing too, since we look at a lot more contemporary artists. So I think that's checked off the list as far as diversity and perspectives, considering we only look at 4 artists. The document has not been modified to meet individual needs of students. The credibility, the links to where those images came from should be added to that as well. So I give copyright credit for it. Is the rubric able to be modified? Yes, I think definitely. Is that if we look at the rubric, we can see that there's kind of a bullet point list for each. I probably should have a bullet point list for these. And then so if something needed to be modified, I might just remove some of those things that are kind of involved. I think that would make sense too, to be able to see the difference between advanced and basic, etc. Is there opportunity for self-assessment? We kind of go over that in class. So I think that when we look at other pieces for other examples, we kind of assess it from then on. But there's not a specific way that they are assessing their own work at the end. I think there needs to be a little bit more time for reflection within this exercise. But then it kind of runs in contrast with, do we have excessive writing in this? And when we do things online, we don't want to get students too carried away with how much they're writing as well. So I think there's kind of a balance there between the two currently. Have expectations been made clear? I think as much as one can. Assessing, this is a kind of a strange piece of artwork. And so kind of giving very clear expectations is kind of difficult, which is why I kind of have this in the red. Depth of reflection, I think we definitely need to have a reflective exercise kind of at the end to talk about the things. I think is there a quick gauge to get student understanding? I think that's when we go over the other student examples. That's kind of where we get that from looking at other student examples. And I don't think it says it in the document as far as how long this would take, but I think that that would definitely be made out in the classroom. It's usually just like 2 class periods. This isn't like a huge independent project or anything. I need to provide alternate text for this. That hasn't been there. Some of these things here with the formatting issues, one thing I have for the tables needs to be changed, but the 3 other things here I don't think are as clear as far as headings and things like that with Google Slides. And I was really looking at the accessibility handbook and the updated one that has the Google Docs, etc. But if I'm looking at, say, let me find an example page here. So this should be like copy text. And if I go into format, it just shows what the things are. There's not like a style sheet for me to be able to drop down. And I really want to be able to assign this the headline of the page and then have this the copy text. I just don't see where that is. And I've been kind of trying to look for that. And I know there's ways to assign that. I thought I've seen them before, but I just don't see like a headline text kind of applied to it. There's like positions and text fitting down here, but I haven't seen where there's style options that I can apply to it. So I didn't see it on the Google accessibility format, mainly because it just talks about Google Docs and not Google Slides specifically. Uh, okay. Before I get too long-winded here, let's try to wrap this up. Um, so I've done this before. You can actually add audio tracks to this. Is that you can, which is I've used, which would be great if I wasn't there. So like here, I do not have an audio track provided with that video, but these other parts here, I don't either. And so there's a way that you can insert an audio, and I think you can do a recording straight there. So I could do the recording separately and just have that with the like QuickTime or something like that, and then upload the MP3 file. And then what happens is it puts a little kind of audio icon there, and so if you clicked on that icon, you would be able to hear the content. Or you could have it play automatically when the page opens. And so if I didn't want that to happen in the classroom when we go over things, I could just hit the mute button, and then that way, it's not competing with each other. The text here, there's actually no audio over this. This is just a visual techniques. So I think I definitely need to add visual techniques or an audio track to it. For students that weren't there. And I think I also need to have the language selected as English so that there's closed captionings there as well. So I think I definitely need to do that. The glossary at the end of the document and the readings for the UDL readings, I definitely saw that was something that was very useful. And I started adding that in the back here. If I can scroll down to my last page, this is a little clunky right now because I'm doing recording video. So I put all the glossary here. I just need to put the definitions of what those are. So is there plenty of student choice? I think so. I give them one of 4 options that we're not all working with the same thing. And I already went through and saw that there was a lot of contrast in text. So I really think that this is going to be a very useful document that I'm going to be able to apply to lots of things that I create for the classroom. And I try to have dates here attached to it, so I know that some of the things, whoops, if I go back to the non-template, that some of these things are going to take some time, and so I put like how long ago that those things were assessed. So I think this is going to be a useful tool. It kind of has all those things that we've talked about, and it's kind of like a checklist that puts together everything that I learned from this class that I'm going to be able to apply to my own stuff. So enjoy the class, and that's it.